You know that piece of advice you've heard 1,000 times? It's everywhere, we basically take it as gospel. But today, we're gonna take a hard look at it.
I mean, we've all heard it. And let's be honest, we've probably all tried it. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? What if it's not a path to success, but actually a confidence trap that sets us up for a ton of anxiety?
And here's exactly why it's a trap. When you're faking it, you're forced into what psychologists call a soldier mindset. You feel like you have to defend your ideas at all costs, even if you just pull them out of thin air. And that creates this constant low-grade anxiety in the back of your mind, right? What if they find out I'm just winging it? It's completely exhausting.
Okay, so how do we get out of this mess?
Well, it all starts with a pretty simple but powerful realization. We've been thinking about confidence all wrong. It's not one thing. There are actually two distinct kinds.
This is the big idea, the key that unlocks everything. On one hand, you've got social confidence. This is your sense of self-worth. It's the feeling that you belong, that you have a right to be in the room and take up space. It's all about your presence. Then, completely separate from that, is epistemic confidence. This has zero to do with your value as a person. It's simply about how sure you are about a specific fact or piece of data. It's all about probability.
So let's make this real. What does this actually sound like when people talk? Well, high social confidence isn't about bluffing. It's having the guts to say, hey, I have an idea I'd like to share. Or, even more powerfully, to say, you know what, I made a mistake, let me fix that. That takes real self-assurance. Now, epistemic confidence is just being honest about your certainty. It could be super high. I am 100% sure this data is correct. Or, and this is just as important, it can be low. I think this is right, but I haven't double-checked the numbers. Once you realize you can be high in one and low in the other at the exact same time, well, that changes the whole game. And this is where it all comes together. The goal isn't to just have high confidence all the time, about everything. No way. The sweet spot, the thing that makes people you actually trust, people you want to follow, is this magical combination: high social confidence, knowing you belong, paired with calibrated epistemic confidence, which is just being radically honest about what you know and what you don't. And this right here, this is the ultimate power move. Just think about it. Can you imagine having the courage to say this in a big meeting? It shows you have such massive social confidence. You're so secure in your own skin that you don't feel the need to pretend for a single second. It's incredible. Okay, so knowing the difference is great, but actually doing it, that takes a real shift in how you think. And that brings us to this idea of a scout mindset. Let's just be real for a second. Our brains are not designed for intellectual honesty. They're designed for survival. And to your lizard brain, uncertainty feels like a tiger hiding in the bushes. It feels dangerous. So our default setting is to create a sense of false certainty just to make ourselves feel safe, even if it leads us to make terrible decisions. I love this metaphor. Think of it like a storm. The soldier mindset sees dark clouds gathering and just pretends everything's fine to feel calm in the moment. And then, surprise, they get caught in a downpour with no umbrella. The scout mindset, on the other hand, sees the same clouds and says, yep, looks like a storm is coming. It might feel a little uncomfortable to admit, but it means they grab a raincoat. They find their safety in seeing things clearly, not in pretending. And that's exactly why saying, I don't know, isn't a sign of weakness. It's your raincoat. Think about it. It protects your credibility. It stops you from making promises you can't actually deliver on. It's a tool that keeps you safe, not a confession of failure. All right, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds nice in a presentation, but what about the real world under pressure? Well, let's dive into a story that shows exactly what this looks like when the stakes are high. So, picture this. You're in a boardroom. A project manager, we'll call him Marcus, is up at the front presenting to the entire executive team. The CEO is there. You can feel the tension in the air. So really, put yourself in his shoes for a second. The presentation is going well, and then the CEO leans forward and asks for a really specific data point, and you just don't have it. It's not in your notes. What's your gut reaction? Can you feel that pit in your stomach? The impulse is to just say something, right? To guess, to fudge it, to do anything to avoid looking like you don't know. But Marcus didn't do that. He took a breath, he looked the CEO right in the eye, that's high social confidence, and said, I don't have that number in front of me. Then he said, and I don't want to guess and give you bad data. That is perfectly calibrated, low epistemic confidence. Then he finished with, I will get it to you in 10 minutes, which shows he's competent and on top of it. And you know what happened? The exact opposite of what you'd expect. The room didn't get tense, it relaxed. Nobody laughed at him. In fact, the CEO told him later that in that exact moment, her trust in him actually went up. Why? Because he proved that he cared more about the truth than about his own ego. He showed her he was a scout.
Okay, so this isn't just some interesting idea or a story about a guy named Marcus. This is something you can actually start doing, like today in your very next conversation. And here's how you can start. I want you to try a little low-stakes experiment. Step 1. The next time you're talking to someone, just notice the feeling, that little internal pressure to sound like you have the perfect, confident answer. Step 2. When you feel it, instead of faking it, try using a different phrase. Something simple like, I'm not totally sure, but my current guess is... And step 3, just observe what happens. My bet is you'll find that it doesn't create conflict. It actually invites the other person to help you figure it out. So I want to leave you with this one last question to think about. So much of our time and energy is spent defending our ego, trying to look smart, and just being terrified of being found out. But just imagine what would happen if you let all of that go. What new things could you learn? What problems could you solve? What could you really achieve if you just weren't afraid of being wrong?